I've been batting the idea back and forth of doing a free agent prediction video for a while, but I just couldn't find an angle where I'd be saying anything vastly different from the majority of people in the MLB space, with a lot of my own personal picks being guys returning to the ball clubs they already played for, which to me just wasn't all that fun to put together. But after Josh Naylor returned to the Mariners on a 5-year deal, I had a bit of a breakthrough in terms of a twist I could put on what admittedly is a bit of a tired idea. I'm going to try to place every free agent who's accrued at least 5 F-WAR combined over the prior 2 seasons with a team that they haven't most recently played for. For example, I can't say that Cody Bellinger is just going to re-sign with the Yankees, even if I do think that's probably the most likely outcome. With that being said, I'm going to go in order of total WAR posted, though I'm not going to be detailing exactly what that total is with every player, meaning we're going to start with Kyle Tucker. The former Astro and Cub is certainly an interesting case, because I think there's very few teams that couldn't use a player who, at his best, utilizes all 5 tools, at least in terms of statistical production. He's actually a little slow, relatively speaking, but I do think that he is somebody who has a major market written all over him. But instead of him predicting to go to the Yankees, which a lot of people are, or the Dodgers, I think it's instead going to be the Giants who are going to open up the pocketbook for the superstar, finally landing a truly big name in free agency. This, in my opinion, is probably going to come with a deal of around 10 years and $400 million. Next, we have the hulking DH formerly of the Philadelphia Phillies, being Kyle Schwarber. He certainly has less utility overall than somebody like Tucker, as he doesn't play anything close to decent defense at any position, but oh man, can this juggernaut crush. Managing to be so productive, he finished second place in MVP voting in 2025 as a DH only. This is where the framing of the video is important, because I do think he probably ends up back with the Phillies, but if he doesn't, I think a perfect place for him to go would be the Braves. Not only is that right field corner basically made for him, but with Marcel Ozuna now being a free agent, spots opened up for them to go out and get what would be a huge addition to the middle of their lineup, one that could possibly help them rebound from a poor season offensively. I think the deal necessary would probably be around 4 years, $130 million. Next up is Dylan Cease, who didn't have the best 2025, certainly diminishing his overall projected returns as a result. However, the 30-year-old still has been pretty good most years for the better half of a decade now, which is very valuable, especially in a year where the starter market is top-heavy. As for his destination, I think a good and reasonable match would be with the Red Sox. Not only did they have just 2 pitchers throw over 150 innings last year, something Dylan has done in each of the last 5 seasons, but their only other guy who threw over 100, Lucas Giolito, is also a free agent. With their impressive and currently improving pitching lab, I do think they could also work to unlock a little bit more in his right arm, and at a price point that wouldn't overall break the bank. I'm thinking 6 years, $170 million. Hold on for 1 second. I want to ask you a question. Would you like a chance to win 2 free tickets to your MLB team's opening day next year? That's right. Today's sponsor, Rico, is giving away 2 tickets worth up to $250 to your MLB team's first game in 2025. Now, what is Rico? Well, have you ever found yourself watching a YouTube video and thought, where can I get that tech or fashion or gadget? That's where Rico comes in. It's a new app that makes videos instantly shoppable. You can tap products directly inside videos and see where to get them. No more searching, no more looking, just instantaneous access. As for the giveaway, all you need to do is download the app via my link in either the pinned comment or description. The winner will then be announced on the 1st of December. Thanks again to Rico for sponsoring this video, and good luck to everybody that downloads. Our 4th entry is another position player, this one being Alex Bregman. In the exact opposite manner as Cease, there's few players that did more to increase their stock over their prior campaign than Bregman, who managed to get pretty much every one of his stats back into line with his former career numbers after a somewhat down 2024, leading to him opting out of the rest of his Boston deal. Although I do think the Red Sox are going to prioritize his return. If he ends up leaving, he does seem like a good fit for a team that was heavily linked to him over the prior offseason, being the Detroit Tigers. With Kevin McGonigal and Max Clark set to make their debuts at some point during the 2026 campaign, the time to put pedal to the metal would seem to be now, and they do have the purse strings to pursue a guy like Alex if they think that re-signing Tarik Skubal isn't on the table. This would probably cost them around 5 years and $160 million. Popping back into the starting pitching world now, we have Framber Valdez. It was certainly an up and down season for the lefty in his free agent year, still managing to put up an ERA in the mid-3s, though with a whip that was his highest since 2021, his first full season. He also dealt with some drama when he seemingly intentionally threw at his catcher after a frustrating sequence, a move that certainly didn't help his clubhouse image as a bit of a diva. Still, consistent lefty starters are always valuable, and it's for this reason I think he signs a pretty big deal with the Chicago Cubs. To me, the fit is almost too perfect. You take what is one of the best infield defenses in baseball, and put it behind a guy with a career ground ball rate around 60%, and good things are likely to happen, especially considering his skill set specifically isn't affected by the blustery conditions often present in the aptly nicknamed Windy City. I'm thinking 5 years, $150 million. Eugenio Suarez maintains our current position player-pitcher alternating pattern, bringing with him easily the most pure pop of anybody outside of Schwarber, with him equaling his career high in home runs over this past season, albeit with some less than elite production metrics in the advanced capacities. This, to me, makes him the perfect match for a team who seems to love aging power hitters with near one-dimensional skill sets. Of course, I'm talking about the California Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who, for all their flaws, certainly don't refuse to spend at least mid-market money at this point. He would slide in nicely as an improvement over Yoan Moncada and Luis Rengifo, and could be part of an intriguingly good infield with Zach Neto, Christian Moore, and Nolan Shanwell. Would this do anything for their postseason aspirations? I don't think a lot, but again, this is how they've operated for years now. In order to get Suarez, they would probably have to overpay a little bit, at around 4 years and $100 million. Would you look at that? Another pitcher, being one of a very similar archetype to Valdez, though with a far shorter track record in Ranger Suarez. He's been excellent for much of the last 5 years, with one major caveat that he's never thrown more than 157 innings in any of them. Maybe this helps with his aging curve as he just turned 30 recently, or perhaps it's just evidence of an injury history that's likely to repeat, but either way, it seems highly likely he'll go out there and give you some pretty decent production regardless in however many innings he can give you. He too is another guy I could see slotting into the Cubs rotation if they miss out on Valdez, but assuming that spot's already taken, I think a sneaky good club would be the Diamondbacks, who still have an extremely productive young hitting core. Their pitching commitments over the last few seasons certainly haven't worked out as well as they'd hoped, but I don't think the answer to that would be to shy away now, especially when they don't have a ton of attractive starting pitching prospects. In my opinion, Suarez is probably going to be a better value than Valdez if he can manage to stay relatively healthy, one that's going to be worth on the market around 6 years and $140 million. Back to the position player side, the pendulum swings, this time concerning an outfielder who, I think, profiles as a lower ceiling Kyle Tucker mold, being Cody Bellinger. I think last year was a great approximation of where he probably is going to sit in his career at this point for at least the next couple years, being a veteran capable of giving you an OPS around 800 with some decent base running and plus fielding in either corner outfield spot, or around average in center. Because of that profile, I think he fits in well with the former club of his that he hasn't played for in a few years, the Dodgers. His arrival would allow Teoscar Hernandez to move back to left field, which would hopefully help with his struggles with the glove, while giving LA some further lineup length and insurance all around the field because of that impressive versatility, something useful on one of the oldest teams in baseball. Again, this is assuming he doesn't return to New York, which I think is probably the most likely outcome, all things considered. What would it take for LA to procure his services? Probably around 7 years and $200 million. We finally break from the alternating pattern of hurler-hitter with our second straight position player, Marcel Ozuna, or as he's more commonly known, Ozuna from the Braves. This model citizen had one of the bigger fall-offs year to year that we saw in 2025, seeing his OPS drop by nearly 170 points, his batting average by 70, and his home runs by nearly half. For a guy on the wrong side of 35, this certainly doesn't make him a prime contender for a big contract, especially considering that his underlying metrics fell off a cliff as well. Still, considering he did have the above 5 WAR threshold that we were looking to hit between the last 2 seasons, I do think he'd serve as a pretty good option for a club like the Reds to pick up right now. They already have the starting pitching to contend, but they could certainly use a big bat in the middle of their lineup, and if Ozuna can get back to anything close to his prior form, he could end up being a steal in terms of value, at around 1 year, $15 million. It's hard to believe that Pete Alonso somehow had a lower value total over our selected time frame than Ozuna, but here we are, with the veteran first baseman on track to far surpass the former Braves contract courtesy of a really good 2025 that included his second highest career OPS and slugging marks to go along with nearly 40 dingers and a league-leading 41 doubles. Yeah, he's always been horrible defensively and will probably go down as the worst first baseman in advanced stat history in this regard when he retires, but still, he mashes with the best of them, and with some pretty impressive predictive metrics as well. He's another guy I think very strongly is going to end up back with his former club, because I do think that's where he wants to be, but if he doesn't, another good fit would be with the Phillies. As unlikely as it is that he'd want to sign with a division rival, the logic is there. If they lose Schwarber, why not replace him with somebody who's younger, yet profiles to produce in roughly the same range? Yeah, it'd be expensive, and they're already top 5 in payroll, but when have we known them to not go for it in this era? The cost would probably clock in at around 5 years, $130 million. The last guy who, surprisingly to me, meets the qualifications I laid out in terms of the threshold is starter Nick Martinez, though since I think he's one of the more relatively minor free agents, I'm going to substitute him out for Bichette in terms of a deeper dive. Briefly, I think Martinez is a great candidate to head to Houston as a depth piece. Now, for Bichette, there's a number of teams I think should be in the running for his services, with him profiling, to me, as a Luis Suarez type with more pop, on base ability, and relative versatility. Again, I do think he re-signs with his former team logically speaking, but if I had to pick a secondary contender, I actually think the Mariners would be a good fit. They're still in the market for some hitting, and he could slot in most days as either a converted third baseman, where he certainly has the arm to play, second baseman on the days Cole Young doesn't play, or DH when he needs to rest what has been an, at times, prone to injury body. In order to sign him away, I think they'd have to probably fork over a deal in the range of 9 years and $230 million. Largely due to his exceptionally young age, as he is yet to turn 28. Alright, that was predicting where every major free agent is going to go over this offseason in the case that they don't return to their original team. Make sure to leave any comments below on what you thought of my picks, as well as any recommendations for other videos you'd like to see done in a similar vein. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in a video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.